Wednesday's issues of The Guardian and the journal Pioneer featured a fantastic document called The Vital Signs of PEI Report. The report, which was the topic of my member statement just yesterday, provides information and analysis on the well-being and the quality of life of islanders. For far too long, governments have had a narrow-minded focus on economic growth as the main way to increase the well-being of islanders. As this report shows, improving the well-being of islanders takes far more than simply increasing GDP. Indeed, as we've seen over the last few years, an economy on a tear can hide critical factors and unintended consequences, such as crises in housing, in mental health, and in the environment. A question to the Premier. Would you agree that a broader view of well-being, as we see it in the Vital Signs report that came out just yesterday, is critical to making effective decisions to improve the lives of all islanders?
The Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Leader of the Opposition for the question. I too have been reading the wonderful document that has been tabled, a collaborative effort between the Community Foundation, as he said, as well as the University of PEI's Institute for Island Studies. And Mr. Speaker, I do believe that a strong economy is one important factor to having a strong province overall. I think that many of the responsibilities that we have that we need to address collectively as a legislature requires our economy to be strong. But Mr. Speaker, 1 year ago today I entered the politics and with the whole idea of making sure that we share that economic success equally across the spectrum, Mr. Speaker. So I think the answer to that question will be yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thanks again, Mr. Speaker. The Vital Signs report gives us a snapshot of the island's well-being at a particular point in time. But at this point, it's only a single report. We need to track this information over time in order for it to be particularly useful, not only to see the progress that's created by our decisions here in the legislature, but also to better understand the shifting priorities of our friends and neighbours. To the Premier, would you be open to helping create a permanent framework for measuring the well-being of islanders?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the question. And I think if I could give some credit, I think one thing, and he's done many, but one thing that I've been impressed with the Leader of the Opposition over the course of his career is that he has successfully led us to change the way we look at, in terms of the environment and the economy and competing as competing interests. And I think the line of questioning that he's embarked upon here is another one of those examples where we need to change the way we look at things. I would be very open to hear what how we would go about doing that, Mr. Speaker. But I do think it's incumbent upon all of us as legislators in here to change the way we look at things. We can't just have a singular look at any of these issues anymore. I think we have to look at it in a broad context. So I would be open to hearing more about where he sees this going and what we can do together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
As happens often, I'm very grateful for the response of the Premier and the members across the floor. And I think before I ask my final question, I'll take a quick diversion. I'll try and get it in within the 40 seconds, Mr. Speaker. The smooth and efficient way by which we're passing legislation in this House is something that's truly remarkable and has never been seen before. A lot of hard work goes on behind the scenes between the sittings of this legislature, and sometimes they're very difficult conversations, but what has happened, what the fruit of that is pieces of legislation come to this floor, they're well debated, they're collaborated on, they're strong pieces of legislation, and they have widespread support. And we're moving through bills here in a way that's never been done before, and I think we should be all very proud of that. Back in 2015, I proposed a framework to do exactly what the report yesterday outlines, which is measure the well-being. It's called the Wellbeing Measurement Act. The Vital Signs report is one example of how we could have done that. A question to the Premier. Would you be interested, hard for you to say no after what I've just said, Mr. Premier, I realise. Would you be interested in collaborating with me to bring forward an updated version of the Wellbeing Measurement Act for the spring sitting?
The Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would echo the comments of the Leader of the Opposition. I think that what we have undertaken here as a 27-member legislature has really been, if not innovative, certainly collaborative, and I think the results that we are delivering for Islanders are many. I would be very much open to collaboration, Mr. Speaker. As I've said many times, and many of the members in here agree that no one party owns the good ideas here. If there's a good idea that that can move the dial forward for Islanders, that we have to be open for that. And I would very much like to sit down and figure out how we could go about doing this, Mr. Speaker, and take that good piece of work from 2015 and put it into work in 2020. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.